Hi, yogis. Lizzie Lassiter here with a gentle gut yoga series. You can find everything I'm doing here on my website, lizzie.yoga. Best thing to do is subscribe to my free Sunday newsletter. The full title for this class is Gentle Gut Yoga, a Nourishing Sequence to Support Digestion. I just got a bad bout of food poisoning when I was on a photo shooting trip in Senegal, and it has stayed with me for over a week since I've been home. These are the poses that I've been practicing to support my gut health. I've also read the wonderful chapter in this book, which I recommend. I'll include the link below if you want to order it for your yogi bookshop. One quote I'll just read from Patricia's book here. Information, emotions, and visual stimulation all find their way into our mind and soul, as well as to our physical body. We need to allow ourselves to ingest and digest. It's this, what she's talking about here is all of this undigested input, which also influences our digestion. It's a very holistic Ayurvedic approach in this chapter. Patricia gives in this book suggested poses. I've pulled some from there, added some of my own. I'm going to show you now, share my screen and show you the full sequence, which we're not going to practice completely today, but these are some of my go-to poses for supporting my digestion. Remembering, of course, that digestion is really a full body endeavor. We just think of the stomach and the intestines, but Patricia reminds us in the book that it starts with the vagus nerve, the esophagus, stomach, intestines. The thyroid gland is, of course, involved in regulating metabolism, the liver, the gallbladder, enzymes. All of this is what we want to support and nourish in this practice. All right, so the full sequence, I would suggest dog with a block. The things in red, we're going to practice together now. Dog with a block, T-bridge, you'll see what that is. It's a version of Setu Bandha. Then headstand, if you have the strength for it, or Uttanasana with the chair. You're just going to put your head on the chair to take some weight of your head, and it stimulates that kind of weight on the head effect. You might have to put a couple blankets or a block on top of the seat of the chair, and then you fold forward. You stay 5, 8, 10 breaths. Uttanasana is also a better choice for you if you're pregnant or menstruating, if you have anything going on with your eyes. Obviously, common sense, don't practice headstand if you shouldn't practice headstand. Inverted child's pose. That's a pose with a bolster that puts pressure onto the belly. I'm going to show that. We'll practice that together now. Then Upavista with the chair. That's the wide leg forward bend. You can put the chair in front of in the center under the forehead. You can also put the chair over the right leg and then the left leg and do it as a slight twist. That feels really good. Pad the chair so that your forehead is comfortable. Then Janu Shirshasana with the chair. That's the forward bend with one knee bent, one leg straight, fold forward, take weight, support your forehead with the chair. And then the second side, Baddha with the chair, we'll practice together, soles of the feet together, folded forward. It's a supportive, restorative forward bend. And then a pose we like to call Instant Maui. It's listed in Mom's book, Restore and Rebalance, as Viparita Karani 1. So a kind of intro baby version of elevated legs up the wall. You'll see it today as we practice together. And then Shavasana, always ending with Shavasana as a well-rounded practice. Let's move to the mat. I'm practicing on a double mat, 2 mats from Hugger Mugger. I'll include the link below in the YouTube description. I'm obsessed with this mat right now. It has these ridges so you don't slide, and it's super padded, which makes it delicious for restorative yoga. I'm going to use a mask now, an eye mask to cover my eyes. If you have something like this happens to be from my Spirit jewelry line. It's a third eye mask. Our first pose, dog pose with the block. I'm going to use the mask to cover the eyes and just reduce that visual stimulation from light Remember what I said at the beginning of this class about digestion, not just being food, but also everything that comes into the body. Come onto hands and knees, exhaling. If you don't have a mask, just close your eyes and lift up towards dog pose. Adjust the support. So a single block works for me. You might want to need a second block. You want to raise the block up to meet the forehead, not sink down the forehead to the block. And just take 5, 8, 10 breaths here. Letting the block support the weight of your head. And come down to hands and knees. Pause. And one more time. Come back to hands and knees. Exhaling, round and lift. Let yourself float up and exhale. Descend the heels. Close the mouth, close the eyes, breathing through the nose. Last couple breaths here. And release. Now let's transition to T-bridge. I've turned on a bit more light so you can see better. The setup is 2 bolsters making a T shape. If you don't have bolsters, fold blankets firmly so that it's approximately the same height, creating this support for your body. Then you're going to sit on this bolster. The knees stay bent in this version of the pose. And I'm going to roll back here. The shoulders are going to come towards the floor. Before I do, I'm going to take a blanket and put it on top of my knees. That's for a little bit of weight and warmth. My heels are out and my toes are turned in. Now I come onto my elbows and I lengthen back here, moving the shoulders towards the floor. And I adjust. I don't want to land heavy with my shoulders onto the floor. My pelvis is weighted. My tailbone is pointing down. If this is too high for you, which is a very real possibility, this is too intense for your body for any reason, then just build this up with blankets and make it lower. So it's the same pose with less back bend. Cover your eyes. And we'll stay for a few minutes here in silence. The chin is softened. C7, the base of my neck is completely elevated off the floor, not even touching the floor. The arms are wide into a T shape as well. The T of the support and the T of the arms. My shoulders are moving towards the floor. And we breathe here. Inhale your breath. Exhaling. Move in the direction of your head. As you slowly transition out of the pose. Roll to the side and press yourself up to sitting. Next, we're going to practice inverted child's pose. Here's the setup. I'm sitting on a block in Virasana because that's comfortable on my knees. If you can't sit in Virasana, even with support, then skip this pose. It's not going to be comfortable for you if your knees are screaming at you the whole time. I come up onto my knees and I move the calf flesh vertically back in one direction. I don't rotate it out. I just move it towards my heels. Then I've got a blanket from Tadasana of the blanket, what we call in restorative yoga, Tadasana of the blanket. And I folded it 3 times and brought it in between my legs. This is going to support the bolster, which then comes in. And I kind of snug that blanket in. Make sure your knees are wide here. That helps your sacrum. And bring the bolster all the way up until it's touching your belly. Nice embellishment is to take another blanket and open it up and wrap it around your kidneys and tuck it in on the front. This is for warmth and energetic support of the abdominal organs that sit here in the back body. Of course, eye mask. And now I'm going to fold forward, but I'm not going to fold forward in a back bend, striving, reaching, pushing towards the pose. I'm going to soften and round forward. Can you see the difference here? There's a smooth, round shape here, as opposed to this shape. That pushes the kidneys forward and makes them hard. We're not collapsing here, we're surrendering. It's a different energetic frequency. It's a slight tweak. Restorative yoga is about opening, not about stretching. And here we're opening this back body between the pelvis and the rib cage. I also have a timer for us. I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. Wrap, 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 wrap. Draw the bolster in towards your belly. Inhale the breath. Exhaling, soften the chin and round forward. Turn your head to one side. And breathe. Exhaling. The shoulder blades are soft. The shoulder blades are dripping down. Almost as if they're dripping down off the back body. About halfway through, you want to turn your head to the other side. Inhale the breath and press yourself slowly up to sitting. Take a couple breaths here. Now we're going to do Baddha Konasana with the chair. I'm going to sit on this yoga tune-up ball and slide my pelvis, tip my pelvis forward so that this supported forward bend already starts with my pelvis shifting forward. I'll put a link to this ball in the description below. If you don't have one today, sit on a blanket or a bolster so that your pelvis can tip forward. The soles of the feet are together, the knees are open. The chair, this could be a dining room chair or a yoga chair, is in front of you with some padding on top. Cover your eyes. We're just going to stay about 10 breaths. Inhale here. Exhale, rounding forward, not striving and back bending forward, rounding forward. Take your elbows here and find the breath. Switch the cross of the elbows, breathing into the back body, about 5 more breaths here.
And inhale, come up.
Close your knees. All right. The last pose we're going to practice together today is affectionately known as instant Maui. Pelvis is elevated and the lower legs are on a chair. It's a great alternative to Viparita Karani, elevated legs up the wall pose, for those students whose hamstrings are quite tight. Then the bent knees take the hamstrings out of the equation. We call it instant Maui because it's an inversion, it's a supported inversion, which does something really delicious to the nervous system. Feels like being transported to a beach on a tropical island. You want to be warm when you practice restorative yoga, so I've just put on socks. The setup is like this: a bolster in front of the chair. Swing your legs up onto the chair. The knees, the backs of the knees are supported. Move the calves out. I have the luxury of a sandbag, which I'm going to place now on my tibial tuberosities, just below the kneecaps. If you don't have a sandbag, you can wrap your legs with a blanket or use a yoga strap. We're trying to reduce the effort of the legs, the inner thighs, the adductors in holding the legs up here onto the chair. You could also put a big blanket above. I'll show that. Up and over. This is, again, for warmth, comfort, soothing yourself by making an enclosure. Come down onto your elbows. Have your eye mask nearby. I have a timer for us. Come down onto your elbows. And now adjust here. So the pelvis is elevated, but notice that my tailbone is tipping down on the far side of the bolster. It's not this, the pelvis elevated and the pubic bone pointing up. The pubic bone is pointing down. It's a back bend from the pelvis to the first ribs. They're back bending. Cover the eyes. And what feels really good is to lift up the skull and lengthen the backside slightly before placing it back down. The chin is soft. Darkness is a very important trigger to the nervous system for relaxation. And I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes for us today, together in silence. Usually I practice around 15. But as a taster, see how it feels in your body. You're welcome to stay at the end or pause this video. The arms are open wide. Part the lips, soften the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. And find your breath.
Inhale the breath. Exhaling. You're welcome to stay or transition out of the pose with me. Unwind your legs. And then lift your pelvis, remove the bolster if you can, and come flat onto the ground. For a breath or two. Before you roll yourself to the side. And press yourself up to sitting. Thank you for your practice. Remember, these poses were just part of a larger sequence that I would suggest you take the time to practice on your own. I do hope you'll join my yoga world, step into my corner of the yoga internet by subscribing to my free newsletter, which you can find here at www.lizzie.yoga. Inhale the breath, open the palms away from the body. With an exhalation, bring them together in front of your heart. Namaste. May we live like the lotus, at home in the muddy water. Thank you.